What's up, guys? So today we're going to be doing one of my favorite things to do on a car, which is rebuilding the bottom end of the engine. So I already took the engine into school and honed it and everything. And then I took it to the shop called L&R down here in Southern California, and they did my cam bearings, so everything else is ready to be put in. And let me kind of show you where it's at right now. So I just popped some of the main bearings in. Basically, when you do these, you want to make sure it's super dry and like degreased underneath them, because you don't want anything that could cause it to spin. Then you just slap them in there. Obviously, you want to make sure the holes are down this way where the oil ports are. Then I had L&R put these cam bearings in for me, and I honed the cylinders. They're a little bit dirty right now, but they look pretty nice. There's just some residue on them, basically from the salt, or like this like bath I put it in after to clean the block out. But otherwise, the cross hatching and everything's like perfect. So now I'm gonna go ahead and throw some assembly lube on, which is super important because this engine might be sitting for like a little bit until January. And this basically keeps it from seeping out versus just using oil. This is like really sticky and will stay in the bearing. So when you start it up for the first time, you don't start it up dry. All right, so you really don't need that much. And you can see how sticky it is, and you just kind of give it a little wipe and you'll be good. I actually might add a little bit more. So now let's do all of these. All right, now I'm gonna wipe the crank down a little bit and then just kind of drop it into the block. So the crankshaft is in. Now I'm gonna go ahead and prep the main caps with the new bearings and slap those on, and then we'll start torquing everything down. Okay, so we got the crank sitting in. Spins pretty nicely so far. Now we just gotta get the main bolts in. All right, so the main caps are all torqued down. Basically, you go in kind of like a big star pattern, going from inside to out. You go 15 on all of them. And do the whole sequence. You can just look it up online, it's really easy. Then you go 53 degrees on all of them. I just kind of like use my breaker bar as a to eyeball it, but yeah, if you can get the cool snap-on digital ones that actually show you the degrees, I'll probably be a lot better. But yeah, it spins real nice, everything's good. So yeah, I got the timing done. I spun the motor around, but the two dots do line up. I totally forgot to get the ring compressor, so we can't install the pistons right now, so I'm just gonna basically extend this video. But I might start throwing the front cover on, and I have to get the new rings on these pistons, so I'll do that. But I just put these through a parts washer, so now they look like brand new. A little bit of carbon left, but they used to be a lot worse than this. But yeah, I got these for super cheap used, so. But to compare, these are the Gen 4 rods and pistons, which are flat top, and the connecting rod's super beefy, especially compared to these. Let me actually bring one into the light a little bit. So comparing the two side by side, this is definitely skinnier than this connecting rod. There's more structure around the actual the connecting rod bolts, and flat top, so it's a little more surface to be able to take heat and boost. But yeah, these have been known to handle a lot of power, so I'll clean these up a little bit more and throw the new rings on, and then we'll come back to putting them in the engine. I came last night and I was gonna put my pistons in, and I started looking at stuff and I was like, okay, I should probably measure things. Like OCD side came around just to like double check everything. So my rings are pre-gapped, but I got a feeler gauge so we can check them. And I don't have the long feeler gauges. I'm gonna see if I can get a good enough measurement with these to check the piston to wall clearance, because that should be about 3 thousandths, because I'm gonna have an iron block and cast a little more because they need to expand more and stuff like that. But that's all kind of dependent on the type of pistons too, if it's cast or forged or something. But yeah, so for the ring gap, it should be 15 thousandths with the math I did, and then I'll check the piston to wall clearance after that, or try to. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to wait because I have stuff at my school I can probably use. But yeah, so let me show you guys how to check the ring gap right now. So you take your piston ring and let's do it on this one. Just kind of stick it in there so it's kind of even. Then you take your piston and you kind of get it down so it seats on the skirt, so you know the ring's flat. 15 thousandths feeler gauge, and stick it in the ring gap. And that's actually perfect. The way it sits in, it's like snug but not too tight. So if I do go to like 16 thousandths, so it's bigger, and check it, it doesn't want to go in. So now here's my 0.003. Now, like, the correct way to do this is there's like a really long version of this, and you would cut the measurement in half, so it'd be 0.0015 or 15 thousandths of an inch, and then you go on either side of the piston skirt. I only have one right now. I think I might go borrow some later and just double check everything, but basically what you do is you take your feeler gauge, stick it in there, and run your piston down just like it would be sitting. And it should be a pretty tight fit. You shouldn't be able to fit anything bigger in there, which I don't think I'll actually be able to. It's actually kind of stuck. So that's actually perfect. I thought it was going to be a little bit too big because of the hone. It's definitely good. If it is a little bit bigger, that's probably like not that big of a deal. People worry about like piston slapping stuff and it like ruining the engine, but it's not as detrimental as some people think. And if I do start running this hotter, especially with boost, you're gonna want a little bit of extra clearance anyway for it to expand. So I double checked some of the ring gaps, and some of them I'm actually getting more of a 17 thousandths measurement, which means it's a little bit too big. But again, I did some more math for like boost and stuff, and that's gonna be like totally fine. It's not super aggressive or anything. It's actually like a pretty like moderate boost gap. And yeah, if I was making like 1,000, this would probably be like a 20 thousandths gap, but that's gonna be like throw a ton of blow by and stuff like that. But I mean, I guess we'll see when I throw the engine together because I have the catch can and everything, so we'll be able to like monitor that. But yeah, I guess everything was pretty good so far, so I can actually start throwing this together. Feel a little bit better about it than just guessing.
Okay, so to go back to the piston to wall clearances, I actually rechecked them. I think I measured it wrong because I went through a bunch and I kind of like moved the pistons around and they were all under 3 thousandths, which is where it should be. It should be about 2, maybe 2.5. So that's actually pretty good. I was kind of worried about it at first because 4 is way too much, 4 thousandths. It's gonna be like moving around in there and getting piston slap. But yeah, so now I'm gonna put the rings on. When you put piston rings on, there's directions in the box to make it really easy. But basically you have your oil control ring and it's little like retainers, and then you'll have your second ring and compression ring. So I already checked the gaps are good. Just take your I like to start with the oil control, just because it's at the bottom, so you don't have to like drag it over the other rings. Then you grab its little retainers, which are universal, so, or for this engine they are at least. You can go whatever direction you want. And these ones you can bend. It's not that big of a deal, so you can kind of wrap it around the piston how you need to. When we get to the other rings, you don't really want to bend them. You want to open them up instead. I'll kind of show you how to do that. So there's the bottom one and the top one. So just sandwiches between the two, and then you got this like wave in between it. So then I grab my second ring, which is also one of the universal rings where it's not directional. So with these ones, they're like, I think they're made of like cast iron or something like that, or hardened steel. But what I like to do if you don't have a tool to spread it open, I kind of like to lay it flat over the piston and spread it apart a little bit until it can slide over down to the well, I guess it got caught stuck on the first one, but you want to basically just do it again until it gets down to the second one. So the reason you don't want to twist these is you don't want to have the rings sit crooked like this. It's okay if they're spread apart because the piston or the cylinder is going to push them back together, so that's not a big deal. Just don't pull them apart super far. They are brittle and they can break really easily. So the top one is directional. There's a little dot to show you which one it is or which way it goes up. And using the same method, just kind of lay it flat and push it apart with my thumbs. So I get it on. So there you go. So now before you put it in, you want to make sure the gaps are kind of separated. You don't want them to really be lined up. Things will spin when it's in the motor, but yeah, you want them to be kind of on opposite sides of each other. All right, so now I'm gonna lube everything up and put the new rod bearings on and put it in the engine. So I got this O'Reilly's ring clamp. It kind of sucks, honestly. I would go with like the solid piece ones. They're like 30 bucks because those you can literally like push down on it and just push the piston in with your thumbs. This kind of have to pop it in with the back of the hammer. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my bearing now. I'm gonna kind of wipe down where the bearing sits onto because you don't want any kind of grease to keep it from having any kind of chance of spinning in there. And just pop it in. And throw some assembly lube on there. All right, so now I'm gonna take some in my hand, kind of lube up the sides and everything, lube up the cylinder, and then we'll pop it in. Take the back of a hammer, kind of push down on this so the rings don't slip out the sides. Give it some pops, and it's in. So you want to go basically down as low as possible, or like as high as possible, or as least as possible, I guess, because you don't want to accidentally score the crankshaft. If you like send it into the crankshaft really hard, and then once you flip it over, you can kind of push the piston up into where it needs to sit on the journal. So then you grab your cap, grab the bearing for it, and stick it on. So the torque sequence is 15 foot-pounds on the first pass, and then kind of when you go down the first time, make sure it gets down evenly because it's gonna teeter-totter. And then it's 60 degrees. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then throw the rest of these in. I'm just gonna time lapse it, since I already showed you guys how to do one, and then we'll move on to what's next. All right, so I'm gonna cut the video here. I got the pistons and everything in, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I might put like the oil pan and oil pump stuff back on just because you guys have already seen me do that. And I kind of want to speed this up without trying to film and work at the same time. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like. Hopefully this doesn't blow up or anything crazy like that, and subscribe because this is gonna go back in the car within the next week, hopefully. And we're gonna wait a little bit because I need more money to buy like braking oil and stuff, but after that we'll get this thing going again. All right, well, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.